Welcome back to Chalk Talk, another fun edition for you, and it's great for me to be back. Ben Axelrod has been really carrying the torch the last couple of weeks. Has still been providing some picks, but it's been fun all season. I can't believe, Ben, that we have hit Week 17 of the regular season for the NFL, already reaching the bowl time for college football. We got some college football playoff picks that we'll be providing here. We're going to do both games, and then we'll do 3 NFL games, but the football season, I don't know, to me, Ben, it's been so much fun. It's flown by, but I think a lot of people are ready for the playoffs, both college and NFL. Yeah,
it's a total blur of a season on both fronts, and, so many, at least in the NFL, so many twists and turns, and here we are, with the NFC playoffs pretty much, they've pretty much taken form, and the AFC still some wild card spots to decide this weekend, and who gets the bye weeks and who has home field. It's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, college, I mean, we've been ready for this college football playoff, it seems like, since October, if not earlier than that. And it's 4 teams in LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma who have been in it the whole time. And definitely looking forward to this Saturday. I think, for all the debate about the college football playoff and is 4 teams enough, and we've talked about it, and is this the right format? It's tough to beat that Saturday where you have the 2 semifinal games and the implications for 2 teams advancing to play for it all. I think it's actually, since it came into effect in 2014, it's really been a fun tradition that's taken form in college football.
Well, we're excited for the college football playoff. Obviously, you've got Ohio State and Clemson that'll go at it, Oklahoma and LSU. Looking at the NFL, and we'll talk about the Week 17 games, I've always viewed this week as, again, we look through it through the lens that is sports betting, all of it for entertainment purposes only. I feel like this Week 17, it's always a strange kind of week. Which some teams need to win, but there's also some teams, Ben, that are far better. They're going to be a big underdog because they're just not going to play guys.
Well, that's what's been really interesting about this Week 17 in particular. I was doing my picks for WKYC.com earlier. I play a lot of DraftKings, a lot of daily fantasy, and you track the players and their values there. And there are a lot of teams who have nothing to play for. They either are completely locked into their spot, or they're already, in the Ravens' case, they already have home field throughout, or they don't really have anything to gain from winning. There's probably 5 or 6 teams that really have no incentive to play their starters this weekend. But a lot of them also have not tipped their hand yet. A lot of them are saying, hey, we're going to play our guys, and we don't know. But we don't know how long that means. Is that for a half? Is that for a quarter? How long are they going to play their guys? And then the other thing to consider is there are going to be teams scoreboard watching who can tell based on the results if they have anything left to play for.
Plays into one of mine coming up.
Yeah, there are some teams who they might be able to look up and see, hey, the Patriots are already beating the Dolphins in the case of the Chiefs, and the Chiefs might say, we have no incentive to play Patrick Mahomes throughout the second half against the Chargers. So there are a lot of games, and as far as, I mentioned daily fantasy, who knows how many of these guys are going to be playing, throughout an entire 4-quarter game this weekend. It's made for some interesting lines, and it's going to make for kind of a topsy-turvy, I think, Week 17.
So if you're taking a team, if you want to take a team like, for DraftKings purposes, you want to take a player like RG3 instead of Lamar Jackson, right?
You get good value on RG3 because he's priced as a backup, but he's going to play the whole game. But then the flip side of that is, how productive is he going to be?
That's true, too. How productive is RG3? That's kind of a balancing act that you have to follow. All right, let's go through our records. We can recap last week. Definitely want to look at these for the season for sure, Ben, because we're coming up on our last week here, and then we'll get into our picks, college football playoff, and then 3 NFL picks.
Yeah, tough week for both of us last week. We both lost our 1 bowl pick. I lost the Camellia Bowl. You lost the Boca Raton Bowl.
I didn't realize SMU wasn't going to come to play in that game.
Yeah, no kidding. We both lost some money with some of those Florida teams. You lost with SMU. I lost with FIU. But then you wound up winning. Let's see, which NFL game here did you win?
I pushed the Bucs-Texans game.
You pushed Bucs-Texans, won Eagles-Cowboys, and lost Titans-Saints.
That's right.
I lost Browns-Ravens and Falcons-Jaguars, but won Jets over the Steelers.
You had the Jets.
Upset. Yeah, I like that one.
So for the season now, we go into the last week here. We both have winning records.
We both have winning records overall. I am 45, 44, and 3 overall. You are 42, 39, and 5 overall. I'm a little behind the 8 ball in college, 18-24-2, but ahead in NFL, 27-20-1. You are dead even in college, 19-19-3, and then just ahead in NFL, 23-20-2. So make
the
or break.
pressure's on
It
here.
all comes down to week 17 of the NFL season.
Wow, well, it's going to be a lot of fun.
We have plenty to play for.
Yeah,
this
we
week.
do. We do. All right, let's start with the college football playoff. We will start with the first game on Saturday for me. Do we just, how do we want, you want to just, because we have some agreement, I know.
Yeah, we both did the college football playoff game, so let's just go over, start with the Peach Bowl, Oklahoma versus LSU.
Okay, we'll start with the Peach Bowl here. I sent Ben my pick before the show, and he said, yeah, we've got agreement here. I'm going to go with the Oklahoma Sooners getting 14 points, and I know you agree on this.
Yep.
I'll let you give your take on it. My whole thought is I believe LSU will win this football game. But, man, 14 points seems like a lot. I feel like Oklahoma, there's something to be said for a team that's been there. I mean, this team has really, truly been there a lot. And while LSU has been very impressive, and I think that sometimes odds makers are protecting themselves from a lot of money that they're going to get on LSU. A lot of people going with the Heisman Trophy winner. A lot of people going with the #1 team in the country. I just think that they're overvaluing LSU in this spot. Could I see a double-digit game? Possibly. But 14 points, I feel like that's a lot of points for a team that's been there. Jalen Hurts has been in some big spots. And the coach has been too, obviously. I just think that this spot for Oklahoma, that's too many points for me.
I totally agree. I'm with you there. And one of my big picks this year, I picked Alabama over LSU and suffered through that entire game. Just watching Joe Burrow pick me apart. That's what I will remember about Joe Burrow's college career, is how helpless I felt betting against him in that LSU-Alabama game earlier this season. But I agree. I just think 14 points is too many. You mentioned, having a team that's been there before and a quarterback who's been there before.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts has played in multiple national title games. He's played in multiple SEC title games. The stage is not going to be too big for him. Lincoln Riley's obviously been here a handful of times before. It seems like Oklahoma's been in this thing every year since it started. And then, the 14 points, I don't know if that's because Oklahoma kind of snuck in the back door into this college football playoff, but I think that really any other year Oklahoma would have been a slam dunk, one-loss Big 12 team that gets selected. True. It just happened to be a crowded field this year in the SEC with all those SEC teams kind of bunching up there behind LSU with Georgia and Alabama and all those schools that were up toward the top. But the way it shook out, Oklahoma, I think, was the undisputed #4 team in the country. Yeah. There wasn't really any debate about that. Jalen Hurts played at a Heisman caliber level all season. And, I think they'll hang with them. And, I just think this is too many points for the Sooners.
I thought it was too many. And in looking at it, again, a team that's been there before, you mentioned them backing in. I don't know if there's a bias against the Big 12 a little bit, but I really thought that the Big 12, over years past, we made fun of their defenses. It's kind of like playing flag football. But I feel like, man, Baylor was playing some really good football when Oklahoma beat them in the Big 12 title game. I think those defenses were pretty darn good in that game. So, we definitely have agreement here. All right, second game is the Fiesta Bowl. And we have agreement here. I'll let you give your take on this first, Ben. We're both on the Clemson Tigers minus the 2 points here.
We both are on Clemson, and I think that this isn't, a talent mismatch necessarily. But I just like Clemson's roster a little bit more. And they, this is a team that hasn't lost since the 2017 season. It was technically in 2018, but it was in a college football semifinal. Trevor Lawrence undefeated as a starter at quarterback.
24-0.
Yeah, won a national title a year ago, picked apart Alabama as a true freshman in the college level. I like this Ohio State team. I'm not going to be shocked if Ohio State comes out and wins this game. I think that the cornerbacks on Ohio State are good enough to match up against that NFL caliber roster that Clemson has at wide receiver. But by the same token, I don't think Ohio State, and you could say the same thing about Clemson, but I don't think Ohio State has played a team with level that sniffs Clemson's.
Yeah.
I just think this is going to be kind of a eye-opening matchup for the Buckeyes. And while Clemson, you could say the same thing about everybody who Clemson has played this season, because Ohio State's obviously had the tougher path to the college football playoff. Clemson, a lot of these guys have played in the national title game a year ago, played in a college football semifinal, played in ACC title games. And this Ohio State roster, it's just a little less experienced than this Clemson team on this sort of level.
They reloaded, Ben. A lot of people talk about oh, they lost a lot of guys last year, and they did. But I'll tell you what, they reload kind of like we've seen with Ohio State over the years.
In a lot of cases, they get better at those positions.
Absolutely. I just think that Clemson finds a way to ultimately win this football game, and the number's so small that a field goal would get it done for us. I know a lot of people hang on that almost loss that they had to UNC. I mean, listen, these are college kids. Anything can happen. If you're coasting 1 week and you're not paying attention, and any team can beat you. I feel like I know a lot of people are, well, they almost lost to North Carolina. Well, they won that game. I mean, and they've gone undefeated and they haven't lost, like you said, in 2-3 years.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State is the 2 seed in this game, and they were probably closer to being the 1 seed than Clemson was to being the 2 seed, right? Ohio State was in that discussion for 1. Clemson was always kind of locked into that 3 seed. Yet it's Clemson that's favored in this game. Yeah. What does that tell you about what the odds makers think about this game?
Yeah, and another thing too, and I wish this wasn't the case because we're here in Northeast Ohio. I'm pulling for Ohio State. I just think that the quarterback Fields, to me, what we saw in that first half. He's saying he's 75 to 80% or whatever. I think it's less than that. I mean, that brace that he's got on, he said he's going to wear the smaller one, but he was wearing that bigger one against Wisconsin. I just think we could end up seeing more of what we saw in the first half against Wisconsin than when they settled down and what we saw in the second half. And I just think Clemson is so much better than Wisconsin. I worry about Fields for the Buckeyes, that's all. I don't think he's 100%. I think that's a shame because I think if he was 100%, they'd have a really good chance here.
Well, that's a good point, too. The way Ohio State fell down, 14-0 to Wisconsin in that Big Ten title game was really the first time all season we saw how things can go wrong for the Buckeyes.
Sure.
And if that happens again, Clemson's going to be a lot tougher of a team to make that up against than Wisconsin was. And I just think, if Etienne gets going for Clemson, if the wide receivers get going, if Trevor Lawrence gets going, as great as Ohio State is, and I think Ohio State, this is a great Ohio State team, that's just going to be a tough team to keep up with out there in Glendale.
All right, so our bowl picks, Ben and I, we've got agreement. In the Peach Bowl, we've got Oklahoma getting 14 against LSU, Clemson -2 against Ohio State.
So theoretically then, we've both got LSU versus Clemson in New Orleans. What do you think there?
I'll go with Clemson. I'll go with I know that I know.
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
You would?
I think.
Well, I'm surprised how much we're agreeing.
I think Clemson's really good.
I do too.
I think we're really sleeping on them because of their schedule, and that's not something they can control. I mean, you can control the out-of-conference games, but they can't control the ACC. I think
they're really good.
I think we're really forgetting just how dominant Clemson has been.
Look at what they did to Alabama last year.
I mean, if they win, this is a mini dynasty. This is
absolutely.
This is a 3- and 4-year scenario.
Yeah.
If they win here, this is an Alabama-like run, and there isn't another program in college football we've been able to say that about.
I would go with Clemson, and I would be pulling for Burrow and LSU in that game, I think. But
the one thing that gives me pause is this does feel a little bit just like Joe Burrow's year.
It could be.
It feels like just the LSU season we'll remember for ages.
It could be.
But
it could be.
I would take Clemson.
All right, Week 17 of the NFL, not as exciting, so we'll probably cruise through these. But Ben, give your picks for Week 17 of the NFL season.
Okay, I've got my first pick. I've got the Jets +2 at the Bills.
I'm just looking at this game after what we just talked about. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, I don't. Well, I'm picking this game because I don't think the Bills say they're going to play their starters. I don't buy it.
They're in, right? I mean,
they're in and they're locked into the number 1 wild card.
That's what I thought. Okay.
They can't go upward and win the AFC East. They can't fall back into the number 2 wild card spot. They are firmly locked into the number 1 wild card spot.
Why risk anything?
They're probably playing Houston. I think they're kind of a conservative team as is. And the Jets, assuming the Bills play their starters at a minimum. I think the Jets are good enough to take advantage of that.
Played well last week.
They played well last week against Pittsburgh. I don't think this is necessarily a dissimilar spot against a fairly similar opponent. I just think, if the Bills take an ultra-conservative approach, it seems like Week 17, there's always, one team that just totally packs it in, and we see them get beat down for their efforts. I wouldn't be surprised if this is this game. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence and Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow and Justin Fields. If the Bills do go to their backup quarterback, I'm not really sure who that is. I don't know who Josh Allen's backup is. I'm going to be honest.
Who that is.
I watch a lot of NFL.
I know,
too.
I am too. I can't think of it offhand.
Yeah.
That's your point right
exactly.
there. We watch a lot of football.
I'm taking the Jets +2.
It's not E.J. Manuel. He's out of the league right now.
It's not Tyrod Taylor. It's not Nathan Peterman.
Yeah.
It's I really don't
Yeah.
know.
All right. Let's go to your second game.
My second game, big AFC.
Playoff implications here, right?
Playoff
Titans?
Implications for the Titans. The Texans, I think, are fairly locked into a matchup with the Bills. They're the AFC South champions. The Titans get in, I believe, just with a win.
Big game for them.
Big game for them, but
Tennessee.
I'm taking the Texans plus 3.5.
Okay.
The Texans or the Titans have kind of been slumping. They hit that late season. They hit their stride a few weeks ago, but they had a big matchup with the Texans in Tennessee 2 weeks ago that they lost, which put the Texans in the driver's seat for the AFC South. Texans with an extra day of rest. They say they're not playing their they say they are playing their starters in this game, and I actually tend to believe them. I think because this is a division opponent who they want to keep out of the playoffs. If the Texans win this game, they can keep Tennessee out of the playoffs. So I don't, even if the Titans win, 3.5 points is kind of enough for me to still take the points and say this could be a field goal type of game.
Yeah, I thought about that. I was wondering if I disagreed with you. Then I said, man, even if the Titans are to win by a field goal, you'd still cover in this instance. Your last game could be the biggest game of the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Sunday night game. It's the only primetime game this week. I think it's going to be a fun one. And I've got the Seattle Seahawks plus 3.5 at home against the San Francisco 49ers. There's been a lot of negativity about the Seahawks lately, just in terms of they've had a lot of one-score wins, which a lot of people don't think is sustainable. If you buy, things like net rating or total, their total scores against opponents, one of the less impressive good teams out there. But they're playing for an NFC West title against the 49ers. I mean, this determines who gets a home game next weekend in the NFC playoffs. If the 49ers win now, they can actually, with a few things, get a bye into the second week and into the divisional round. But I think just at home, it's going to be an electric atmosphere. Marshawn Lynch back for the Seahawks. Right. This is another game where, if it was a 3-point spread, maybe I'd go with the 49ers, who I tend to think are going to win this game. But I'll take the 3.5. And I think Seattle could win outright. And if not, I still have 3.5 points to play with.
It was a great game the first time they played. It was one of the games you picked. I remember you hit Seattle.
It was a Monday night game,
I believe. They were
getting
6.
Yeah, they were getting 6 in Santa Clara.
I remember you picked Seattle and you won that.
Yeah.
So here we go again. They play again, and I'm surprised that the team that won at home is getting 3.5.
Yeah, there's a lot of negativity about this Seahawks team right now. They just signed 2 running backs off the street. Really, but I still think, Russell Wilson in prime time,
he's a winner.
He tends to show up.
If Lamar Jackson wasn't around this year, I think that Russell Wilson's your MVP.
He'd be right there,
What a fantastic year he's had. All right, so to recap your 3 NFL picks, Week 17.
Yes, I got 3 underdogs. I've got the Jets plus 2 at the Bills. I've got the Texans plus 3.5 versus the Titans. I've got the Seahawks plus 3.5 versus the 49ers.
All right, my 3 picks here. We're going to start out with the Browns-Bengals game. I'm going to take the Bengals plus 3. I don't think they'll even need the points. I think they can win the game. The Browns are just a disaster right now. I mean, it looks like the head coach, everyone's talking about him. He could lose his job. And boy, if they lost this game, I certainly think he could cement that if he hasn't already. I thought Andy Dalton and the Bengals actually looked all right here in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Had an opportunity without a late decision for him to do a draw play on 4th and goal. I thought they had a chance to tie or have a chance to win that game. I think the Bengals at home, they know they have the top pick. This is going to be Dalton's maybe last game in Cincinnati. These guys are playing hard. Zach Taylor's a young coach. He's probably going to have these guys try to rally and win to go into the regular season feeling good about, or going to the offseason feeling good about maybe getting Joe Burrow. I think that the Bengals win this game. I don't think they'll need the points.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot of arguments to be made for the Browns in this game unless you just believe that this, for some reason, is going to be the week that they put it together, which I don't know why it would take until Week 17 where they have nothing to play for.
Another thing, too, Browns finally mathematically eliminated. I think there was doubt anyway, but I think the players kind of might be deflated. I forgot to mention that.
I mean, also, we're going to talk a lot about a coaching change potentially with the Browns. And if that happens, you would imagine it's going to be out there Sunday morning. There's going to be some sort of report from Adam Schefter,
at 9 a.m., right, those shows?
Jason La Canfora, Jay Glazer. There's going to be one of those reports, and that stuff affects locker rooms. I mean, that stuff can really negatively affect the team. Not that, the Browns have been playing for Freddie Kitchens over these last few weeks. I like the Andy Dalton send-off narrative. This is probably his last game with the Bengals, and the Bengals have nothing to gain by losing this game. They're already locked into the number 1 pick. Joe Mixon, too, had a field day with the Browns defense 2 weeks ago up here. No reason to think that he can't replicate that against the Browns this week. Tyler Boyd, I think, too, could find success against the secondary. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of paths to the Bengals winning this game, and you get the 3 points on your side.
Something about the Bengals, too, as bad as they've been record-wise. They were down 35-16 late in the game against the Dolphins. They rallied to score like 2-3 times. They go into overtime. I know they lose, but it's like, I feel like they're playing way harder than a team should be at this point. So I'll go with the Bengals there. Other game, I'm going to take the Steelers -2 at the Ravens. This is one of those games where the Ravens just do not have to win. The Steelers actually could find a way to backdoor in. I know they need to win, and then they need something else. Oh, maybe it would be the Titans to lose.
Yep.
So I really feel like the Steelers feel like they have a chance to win this game. The Ravens aren't going to play anybody. I think they're going to rest a lot of guys on defense too.
Yeah.
One of those games where you would never see this line if it wasn't Week 17. But we know this is the situation, and I think Pittsburgh really hurt themselves last week. But I do think they find a way to rally to find a way to win this game by a field goal.
Yeah, you know, the Ravens are the one team that have outright said, we're not playing anybody. We're resting Lamar Jackson. We're resting Mark Ingram, who got banged up in that Browns game. Anybody of significance to this Ravens team, they're not playing. I'm staying away from this one for two reasons. One, I don't like this Steelers team. I don't like their quarterback situation. I think their offensive weapons have been shaky all season. Juju Smith-Schuster hasn't been right all year. They were able to kind of grit and grind their way through November after that loss to the Browns, through basically the win against the Browns in December. But I just don't think the talent is consistent enough. And then the flip side of that is, this Ravens team, even with its backups, could be a fun team. I mean, Robert Griffin III.
He's going to run the same sort of offense.
They're going to run the same sort of offense. I think John Harbaugh is going to coach hard. This is kind of an audition for Robert Griffin III to really re-energize his career since it got ruined basically in Cleveland in 2016. And
they'll try to win. I just don't know with the guys that they have. But it's not going to be a laydown.
Sure. I just think I mentioned LSU and this being their year. This feels a little bit like the Ravens' year, and this could be kind of one of those fun, home regular season finale. All our backups are in, but we still rally and beat a division rival in the Steelers and keep them out of the playoffs.
And if Pittsburgh looks up at that scoreboard at halftime, and the Texans the Texans are rolling the Titans, the Titans are rolling up. You never know. One of those things, which plays into my last pick. This is it. We'll make it quick. Broncos -3.5 against the Raiders. Never thought that the Raiders going into Week 17 would actually technically be mathematically alive, but I think this is one of those situations. This is a 4 o'clock game. I think the Raiders will be eliminated by then. They won't care as much. I do think the Broncos are just as good on paper, and they're at home. So I think this is one of those games where the Raiders will be out of it by then. They won't care. Broncos win this game by more than 3.5 points.
The Raiders
they are alive.
They are alive, and that's why I'm staying away from this one, just because I want the Raiders to be alive in this game. I want to have those implications. They need all sorts of things to happen. They need the Steelers to lose. They need the Titans to lose. I think they need the Colts to win to affect the strength of schedule.
Could happen.
And the Colts aren't even in it anymore. They just need to help their strength of schedule tiebreaker. It's this weird, but they're still alive, and that's dating back to once the Browns, I think, once they beat the Steelers back in November, I started to, really track the Browns' playoff hopes. And the Raiders were always a team, that were right there because they got off to a hot start, but then really fell off. But somehow they're still alive in it heading into Week 17. So I'm just staying away from this one. I'm not in love with the Broncos quarterback, Drew Lock. I know he had those 2 big weeks to start, but I thought they were kind of fool's gold. And we've seen him come back to earth a little bit here in these last few weeks.
All right, just to recap my picks, Bengals getting 3 against the Browns, Steelers -2 at the Ravens, Broncos -3.5 against the Raiders. Ben, it's been fun.
It has.
It's been a year full of NFL picks, college picks. It's been fun, all of it for entertainment purposes only. We hope you've enjoyed. That's the final edition of Chalk Talk.